Okay, dude. So, basically, the news about Amy Coney Barrett that we haven't covered
Mhm.
yet, that
Yeah,
she's
likely Supreme Court nominee, by the way. Trump hasn't
likely
officially
Supreme. Yeah,
announced it, but it's pretty much down to her. And if it's anyone else, it's going to be a massive curveball, pretty much from what I gather.
yeah, and I think that he said that he's going to announce it on Saturday. So I think that we're all pretty much anticipating that it's going to be Amy Coney Barrett. What's interesting about Amy Barrett is, I want to say a few years ago when she got appointed to like the Seventh Circuit in Chicago for appeals court
Yeah.
by Trump, an article came out that was basically like, yo, she's connected to this cult called the People of Praise. And I don't know if it's 100% fair to call it a cult because I don't think everybody lives there. Would you call it a cult? Like, it's basically like, I mean, a
I
super
mean,
orthodox religion.
yeah, it's very secretive, so not a ton about it is known. However, I mean, this ex-member of the cult calls it a cult, so I think it's safe to, say it in that sense.
Yeah, this was based off of the interview with Amy Goodman on Democracy Now, right?
Yeah, yeah, that came out this morning where Amy Goodman talked to like a,
A woman who
researcher.
basically entered the witness protection program or something crazy
Yeah.
like that after trying to escape from this. So essentially, the story goes that the woman interviewed by, let's see, what's her name? Uh, Coral Anika Teal was a member of the People of Praise from 1979 to 1984 and is now speaking out against the organization. Basically, what she asserts is that her husband forced her to join this like weird cult where like you have like a handmade like spiritual advisor, but once you're married, then your husband becomes your spiritual advisor, and he
Hmm.
basically is like patriarchal, authoritarian, like control over you,
Yeah.
basically like super old school
It's
uh,
basically like a super secretive,
patriarchy.
closed off religious community where, yeah, they abide by very strict, kind of antiquated gender roles where like the man is still definitely the head of the house. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, like the very antiquated gender roles. And yeah, this woman who was on the Democracy Now, this is a transcript, basically says, many call it a community. I describe it as a cult. And another person who was on Democracy Now talking about this, said like, well, there's nothing wrong necessarily with having an organized, close knit religious community. It's just the fact that it's so secretive, and there's these weird, um, uh, instances described by ex members that kind of raise eyebrows and make it seem like this weird, bizarre cult. And
And
I
do you
just wanted
remember
to,
that like action between her and Dianne Feinstein a few years
yeah,
back, where like what was it, like the dogma is within you or whatever the fuck, and it was like
yeah,
people from the religious community, and I'm super not like sensitive about any of this shit. I've been an atheist my whole life. I don't give a fuck about religion, but I know a lot of people, voters, good people, do take religion seriously. So I'm not trying to like shit on that or anything, but I just think that Dianne Feinstein actually had a point, right? Like this lady is not going to be able to, and far be it
yeah,
from me to give credit to Dianne Feinstein when she
right?
doesn't deserve it.
Weird.
But when she called out this lady, she had a point, and a lot of people got pissed off about it because there were people who were like, "Yes, that's damn right. The Catholic dogma is within me," and it's like, "Oh yeah, well, guess what, dude? It's not fucking supposed to be if you're a Supreme Court justice, right? Like
Yeah,
you're
it's not.
supposed to be." And to her credit, Amy Coney Barrett has said that she would need to like recuse herself, I believe, in cases where it comes to like the death penalty or something like that. But it doesn't seem like she's going to recuse herself from cases in the Supreme Court when it comes to things like a woman's right to choose or
And also, we shouldn't have to have our Supreme Court justices recuse themselves because their, idiotic theocracy gets in the way of making a sound, logical ruling. And this really just goes to show that you know Christians, especially super religious Christians, if there's like a commune or something near in their community, the first thing they start saying is, "Oh, like I bet they're doing satanic rituals and worshiping." And like atheists, they always accuse them of being satanic ritual worship cult, like all this crazy stuff. But most actual cults in this country are just Christian cults, organizations like this that are these terrifying, secretive, weird, insular organizations and communities where, yeah, this kind of crazy shit goes on. And it's pretty obvious why it's secretive because like the ex-members of the cults have come out and said it's abusive, it's torture. This is crazy stuff. It reminds me of that film Jesus Camp where they're like indoctrinating the like kids into like screaming in tongues at them and stuff. Like most of this crazy kind of organized religion stuff goes on under, you know, the banner of Christianity. You know, same with like, you know, Mormonism and all these. I mean, obviously there's varying strains of insanity, but a lot of this stuff gets really crazy.
Yeah, all the religious dogmatism. Yeah, Amy Coney Barrett's great. I don't know if she's a tongue whisperer or not. I guess we
Oh,
wouldn't
dude,
be able to.
I think she is.
Dude, I
It
don't. I can
seems
never
like
tell.
it.
Like, is that a real thing that people do? I don't
Oh
like.
yeah, 100%. Remember in
Uh,
Borat when he goes to the like church and they start like.
yeah, dude. But I always thought that was kind of pretend. Like,
No, dude, I feel like people have just like gotten over the spectacle of it, but I think there's still some crazy pockets of like real.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, I've been reading into a little bit more of the, you know, like whole like theocratic movement in America and the like that emerged in like the late '90s and early 2000s.
It's crazy.
And I will say, I was genuinely shocked at the rhetoric that's used and how like fucking vile and like antiquated it seems even 20 years later.
And how like crazy.
It has to still be a subsect of society who still really believes that, even though it's become like gauche and unacceptable to voice those beliefs.
Right. And like I said, it's just super insular communities. I mean, some of these churches, you know, they get like really performative with the speaking in tongues, you know, like if you see, it looks something out of like the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, you know, like all these groups of people.
A very racist, antiquated film in its own right.
Extremely. But that's my point, is that as a culture, we look at, you know, these other Indian mysticism religions, and we look at like Satanism and accuse any free thinking people of, you know, being involved with these weird things. But in the main religion of America, this stuff is going on. You know,
well, that goes down to the crux of all of America. And I wanted to bring this back because I was actually listening to this Howard Zinn interview today. Rest in peace, Howard Zinn. But back in 2005, he gave this amazing lecture at MIT called The Myth of American Exceptionalism. And basically throughout the entire time, he talks about how the weaving of God and, you know, dogmatism from religion into the narrative of the United States has been fundamental in justifying, you know, not only all of our countless domestic, or I mean, foreign, you know, destruction, but also in justifying that, you know, basically anything that we do is right, and basically that we're superior. So, you know, he makes the distinction that like American exceptionalism is not implying that we are unique and different in the way that all cultures are unique and different, but rather that we're superior. Mm-hmm. And this superiority, you know, overlaps into the prevailing religion. People think that Christianity is superior, right? Yeah. And they basically they don't apply the same kind of criticism that they would to something like Islam or even Judaism that they do to Christianity, because it's the faith that they were indoctrinated in. It's kind of like, you know, people who were never told that Santa Claus wasn't real.
Exactly. And of course, it's just like with religion, it's the same with, you know, nationalism. A lot of the crazy nationalist stuff that we take for granted here would, of course, be looked at as totally weird if it was going on. And, you know, if you saw a bunch of Pakistani children singing the Islam national anthem every morning, you'd be like, a lot of Americans would think that looks weird, but, you know, we do it every morning.
It's so weird how our propaganda seems so natural. And and this is another point from the Howard Zinn lecture, but he talks about how often Americans pat ourselves on the back, how often we celebrate ourselves in all aspects of our society, whether that's baseball games or, you know, watching the nightly news, like America's the best, America's number one, America is, you know, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Like our propaganda is like not even recognized as propaganda because it's so integrated into our community. Whereas we can still look at, you know, the USSR and be like, why were all of those people like singing about the fucking Soviets? And it's like, wait, dude, why are all of our songs about the military? Like, you ever heard a country song before?
Yeah. And about God too, which re-enters religion. And of course that was introduced in like the Cold War era stuff to try to, you know, the God-fearing or the God.
I'm a God-fearing Christian from the heart of America. Like every country song ever, you know? But anyway. I think she'll get confirmed. Trump has the votes. Even if Mitt Romney hadn't fucking squirmed, and to be fair, he probably wants a fucking conservative Supreme Court justice. So like, why wouldn't he? Yeah, you know. So it's just like
100%.
I mean, even though it's fucking horrible for him, I mean, I think it might, you know, hurt him, his popularity in his state, as Arizona becomes more and more blue. But he doesn't actually give a fuck. And even if he did sit out, McConnell would still have the votes because Mike Pence would be the tiebreaker. And at that point, it's just like he would be flushing away all of this political capital for nothing. So that's why I definitely think they're going to get this taken care of before the November 3rd election. And I think that essentially the political calculus now is what Republicans in swing states are going to lose as a result of this. I think it's going to be like Cory Gardner, Susan Collins.
Yeah, I think McConnell's ultimate, calculus is that the Senate is majorly in jeopardy. There's a very good chance the Republicans lose the Senate, and McConnell's.
I definitely think they lose the Senate and the House.
And I think his calculus is that, well, if we're going down, might as well get the justice on the way out, and then
that's 100%.
Call it quits, peace out. That'll be kind of McConnell's final real act as the majority leader. He will have stolen the nomination from Obama and given one to Trump. Good job, you played dirty and you got lifetime appointments from the Supreme Court. Just, codifying conservative bullshit into our lifetimes for the rest of time.
Dude, after this is, like, what was Mitt Romney's bullshit statement? Like, my liberal friends have gotten accustomed to a liberal court, and that's not always going to be the case. Well, it's like, bitch, I am so ready to start campaigning to stack the courts. Like, I think, I know. You know what I mean? And, and also because it's so fucked. Because here's the thing, the conservative amount, like the conservative ideology is like, it maybe like the hardcore conservative, it encompasses maybe 20% of the electorate. It is a really small amount, right? If you look at it, because it's not even half of the voting electorate really is voting 100, maybe I think slightly less than half of so 40% of the voters, which is like, I don't know, like 20% of the American people. Like that's a really low number when you compare to those are the people that are going to be making fucking decisions for everybody. Like how undemocratic is that?
Right. Exactly. It's crazy. And I think that people, even in the mainstream left, are starting to realize that. So